What's going on, fight fans? It's your host Sebastian, and welcome back to The Boxing Tip. Now, this is going to be my official breakdown and prediction video for a fight that is one of my more anticipated fights of the year so far, and that fight is between Mikey Garcia and current WBC title holder Dejan Zlaticanin. So you guys know how I do these things. Usually I kind of generally talk about each fighter individually and what they do very well, and then I go ahead and talk a little bit more about what each fighter should do or implement in the fight in order to be successful, and basically how I would see them being successful. So let's go ahead and talk about the more well-known fighter of the two, a fighter that a lot of people are excited about being back and being active in the sport once again, and that is Mikey Garcia. Now, as we all know, Mike Garcia was an undefeated fighter, climbed through the ranks, really made some noise a few years ago. Also the little brother of trainer Robert Garcia and former professional fighter. Anyways, hit the scene, had some really good fights, was looking very spectacular, and then obviously he had some issues with promotions and stuff like that, which sent him into about a 2-year layoff. But now he is back. Fought his last fight against Elio Rojas. You could tell there was a little bit of ring rust there. Mike Garcia, he is a more lenient fighter. You know what I'm saying? He really does take his time in there. He isn't trying to rush things. He isn't very quick to push the pace, in the first few rounds. Very technically sound. Fundamentals are on point. Very balanced fighter. Amazing jab. Has one of my favorite left hooks in boxing, being that he baits his opponents in with his left hand, kind of like a lazy jab, what would seem like a lazy jab, and then just whips a left hook right after. It's really beautiful. I like watching when he does that. But Mikey Garcia, he's an excellent fighter. He doesn't have the best defense, I would say. He does have a pretty decent defense, but he does catch shots. I think that is something that he's going to have to really watch out for in this fight. But to kind of generally talk about the other fighter, the more lesser-known champion, Dejan Zlaticanin, honestly, I feel like people may sleep on him just a little bit. He's had some really good fights with Redak and Ricky Burns, beat both those guys. He's been in there with some pretty tough opponents before, and is the first ever champion, world champion from Montenegro. So, big accomplishment for him. He's really flying high right now. You know what I'm saying? Confidence should be through the roof. I like this guy, man. He's a very tactically smart fighter. And what I mean tactically is that he is in his own right a technician of boxing, but he kind of resembles a little bit of the aggression of Mike Tyson. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that it's like a spitting image of Mike Tyson or anything. It's just when he likes to come forward first, right? And he uses this nice side-to-side head movement because he's a little bit of a shorter fighter. He uses really good side-to-side head movement to get on the inside, get in range of his opponent, and then wing out some very short but very powerful shots. And he's really good at doing it. He's very accurate. He's pretty quick as well. And he has a really good defense. Very good upper body movement from what I've seen in his fights. Can really slip those punches and really, give different looks, good feints using his upper body. Uses his feet. His feet, in my opinion, is what carries his aggression, because he's very smart at using his feet to quickly close the distance, get his opponent in range, use his height, and throws really sneaky, powerful punches to the body and to the head. And it's really fast. You know what I'm saying? It happens, simultaneously. So I really like Dejan Zlaticanin. In my opinion, alright, and this is just me, guys, but I feel this will be the hardest fight of both fighters' careers. Alright, and this is what makes this fight so exciting to me, is because I do feel like this will be the most difficult challenge for either fighter. Now, to kind of talk about what Mikey Garcia can do in the ring against Dejan Zlaticanin to kind of offset his game plan, or how but let me remind you guys before I get into it, everybody's game plan can be different come fight night. You never really know what the fighter's gonna do, but given recent fights, recent fights and past fights from both fighters, they seem pretty consistent in their game plan. So like I said, let's go ahead and start off with Mikey Garcia, some things that he should avoid and some things that he can maybe implement against Dejan Zlaticanin to get the victory. Alright, first thing, one thing that he needs to avoid. Mikey Garcia, he isn't the most stationary target, which works good for him, but he needs to stay off of the ropes. That is key against a fighter like Dejan Zlaticanin. The kind of aggressive footwork that Dejan Zlaticanin has in his positioning, because he likes to position himself at an angle, and it's not like he's doing it, as he's punching. He will get into that angle and then start throwing his punching. Alright, and it usually occurs when his opponent's on the ropes. Mike Garcia needs to stay off the ropes. He has pretty good footwork for the most part. Mikey Garcia does. He not so much that it's flashy or he does anything really crazy. It's really subtle, but he knows where to go and navigate around the ring. You know what I'm saying? His GPS of the ring is on point. He knows where he needs to go, where he needs to avoid. Definitely needs to avoid the ropes. Definitely needs to avoid getting trapped in the corner. Dejan Zlaticanin can cut the ring off, so he needs to make sure that if for whatever reason Dejan Zlaticanin is starting to get too close to him inside of his range and into Dejan Zlaticanin's territory, he really needs to pump that jab. Okay, this is another one of those things. Use that jab, but make sure that if he's going to use that jab, that it's going to be at the complete, at the full extension of his jab. Not overextending, but a nice snapping at full extension is where Dejan Zlaticanin needs to be, and then he needs to make his escape route and get off or get away from the corner or the ropes. Alright, so that is a key thing. That's something that I would expect Mikey Garcia to really pay attention to, because Dejan Zlaticanin does his best work when he gets his opponents on the ropes, or if he gets too close. So Mikey Garcia needs to avoid letting Dejan Zlaticanin get too close. Keep him on the end of that jab. Also, keep him on the end of that jab to provide an escape route from being trapped on the ropes or on the corner, or by letting Dejan Zlaticanin get too close. But also, like I said, Dejan Zlaticanin likes to position himself at a slight angle to punch. So if Mikey Garcia is going to have an escape route, make sure that it isn't going to end up playing into Dejan Zlaticanin's, angle approach to punching. You know what I'm saying? Or his position to punch from an angle. I think Ricky Burns in the first half of the Dejan Zlaticanin fight tried to use one little lateral step to get away from Dejan Zlaticanin, and ended up being at an angle that provided Dejan Zlaticanin with a very big punching opportunity and laid Ricky Burns out flat. He got up, of course, but it laid him down. So he needs to make sure that he really pays attention to where, if he is going to escape from letting Dejan, not escape per se, I think that's a really distasteful word in boxing, but to kind of avoid letting Dejan Zlaticanin get too close. Alright, now those are a couple things that Mikey Garcia needs to avoid. Let's talk about a couple things that he needs to implement in his game plan. First off, being that Dejan Zlaticanin is the smaller fighter, he needs to keep Dejan Zlaticanin at the end of his punches when he decides to press the attack. And if he's going to press the attack, make sure that his attack is going to push Dejan Zlaticanin backwards. He needs to get Dejan Zlaticanin to move backwards when he punches. So he needs to keep him and make sure he keeps his range, even if Dejan Zlaticanin comes punching forward. Now, Mikey Garcia, like I said, he has one of my favorite left hooks. And like I said, he'll bait him in and let the opponent come forward and then whip a left hook as the opponent's coming forward. He landed that punch on Juan Lopez many times. it's a very effective punch and a very effective technique for Mikey Garcia. So I think he should really implement that in this one, being that Dejan Zlaticanin is a come forward, and not come straight forward either, but he comes forward with aggressive footwork and side-to-side head movement. Mike Garcia, if he can keep him on the range, keep him at the full extent, at the full range of his punches, maybe he needs to kind of throw that jab out there, maybe like a bait, to kind of bait him in to get Dejan Zlaticanin to open up before he gets in range, to make Dejan Zlaticanin lunge at him and shoot that left hook and try to catch Dejan Zlaticanin in between his lunging, or if he can make him lunge. So basically what it is that the jab invites the aggression, but use the aggression against the fighter. You know what I'm saying? With the left hook, it should work very well for him. Also, Dejan Zlaticanin is a southpaw. Mikey Garcia is an orthodox fighter. Mike Garcia really needs to pay, if he wants to be able to offset Dejan Zlaticanin's, come forward aggressive footwork, you know what I'm saying? What he needs to do is he needs to establish that outside angle that provides his escape route, and he'll have the angle on Dejan Zlaticanin to punch back at him. So Mike Garcia, like I said, he's a very technically sound fighter, very fundamentally sound fighter. Against the southpaw, he should know that that's the angle that you want to go for, especially against a come forward fighter. A come forward southpaw, you want to establish that outside foot or lead foot dominance, provides you an escape route just in case things go south. But if you can get to the outside while basically misleading Dejan Zlaticanin's come forward aggression, get him out of punching position, you'll be in position to punch, shoot that straight right, or maybe be able to turn him into a nice left hook. Depends on the situation, of course. So I think those are a few things that Mikey Garcia needs to look out for, some extra shit that he can implement in his game plan in order to offset Dejan Zlaticanin's aggression and be able to get off and press the attack successfully himself. Now, for Dejan Zlaticanin, it's basically the opposite, but some things are similar that he should do. First thing, he needs to back Mikey Garcia up. Alright, Mikey Garcia is pretty well at fighting going backwards at times, certain shots like his left hook, but Dejan Zlaticanin is a much better forward fighter than Mikey Garcia is a backwards fighter. So once again, Dejan Zlaticanin should be looking to establish that lead foot dominance as well, being that he is the southpaw, Mikey Garcia is the orthodox fighter. Gets him out of position, it will force Mikey Garcia backwards, and also put Dejan Zlaticanin in range at his angle to punch. Second thing is he needs to maintain that head movement at all times. Do not give Mikey Garcia a stationary target to attack. Mikey Garcia is a very accurate puncher. If you give him a stationary target, he'll hit you. He'll find a way to hit you eventually. So what I want to see Dejan Zlaticanin do is nothing out of the ordinary from what he already does. Keep that chin tucked, side to side movement, aggressive footwork, get on the inside of Mikey Garcia and let them punches fly. Mikey Garcia does have a pretty good guard, but with all guards, there are chinks. If he's got those arms up high, hit the body and work your way up, work your way back down, and watch out for the counter punches on the inside. That's another thing. Dejan Zlaticanin, I don't see Mikey Garcia being very fluent with the uppercut, but that could be another punch that he would want to look for in this fight. Dejan Zlaticanin, I think he should maybe avoid using uppercuts. Try to keep it, being that he's the shorter fighter. Short, very sharp, quick. Either not too looping, but overhand rights or overhand lefts. Nice sharp hooks to the body. Straight shots if he is in Mikey Garcia's. If Mikey Garcia is in Dejan Zlaticanin's range. So I want to see Dejan Zlaticanin keeping his punches crisp, bringing those hands back as fast as possible. Mikey Garcia is a good counter puncher. If he decides to press the attack, or if he feels he needs to, kind of lunge his way in there, close the distance quickly by throwing maybe a couple of less convicting shots or less powerful shots just to keep Mikey Garcia distracted. He needs to be able to, he needs to make sure that he's watching out for the counter punching, because Mikey Garcia is a decent counter puncher. Also, another thing that I would like to see Dejan Zlaticanin do, and maybe this isn't something that he does often, but I've seen him do it maybe once or twice, but I would like to see him shift. It's another good way to close the distance while maintaining his balance at all time, and it suits well with his, the way he chooses to approach boxing. Aggressive, come forward, very sneaky puncher who can crack. So I would like to see some shifting from Dejan Zlaticanin. If he needs to close that gap quick while throwing punches, shifting is a perfect way to do it. He throws a straight left, shifts to the orthodox position, keeps that head movement going, throws the straight right or maybe an overhand right from the orthodox position, get back, landing back into his more familiar position, being southpaw. Distance is closed. Now he can start going to work the way, he normally does. It'd be business as usual. Now, for my pick for this fight, it's a hard one. It really is a hard one to pick from. Mikey Garcia, he's been in some pretty big deal fights before, maybe not big deal so much to the hardcore boxing fans, but he's been on that bigger stage, has some experience on that bigger stage. Now, these are just kind of other factors, but he has experience fighting on this bigger stage against, some quality opponents. Dejan Zlaticanin, he has fought on a bigger stage as well against some pretty quality opponents as well. So I'm not seeing that being too much of a factor, but what I can say is that I think the winner of this fight, it really comes down to whether or not Mikey Garcia can keep Dejan Zlaticanin out of range and whether or not Dejan Zlaticanin can get in range. Because if the fight and if the distance closes, Mikey Garcia is a bit out of his comfort zone, and you are into the full comfort zone of Dejan Zlaticanin. So, it's hard to tell, but I think at some point Dejan Zlaticanin will be able to close that gap, and I'm really curious to see how Mikey Garcia will handle it, will deal with it. I haven't seen Mikey Garcia fight at a very close range before. I've noticed he likes to kind of stay at his range, to where he can fully extend his arms to punch, because I feel like that's where he generates a lot of his punching power, because Mikey Garcia can't crack. Dejan Zlaticanin, he cracks from either distance. The guy is a pretty heavy-handed guy. So, that's where I'm having difficulty picking right here, because when you look at the stylistic and the technical matchup between the two, or the comparison between the two, it's really a one or the other type of thing. But like I said, depending on the game plan going in, will determine who the winner is going to be, or who the more successful fighter is going to be. So as of right now, I think that I am leaning towards Dejan Zlaticanin to win, and may possibly even be by, I would say, maybe a late round stoppage, or it could be a decision victory, depending on how close the fight is during the rounds. But I feel like if Dejan Zlaticanin is able to impose his will and be able to get in his range and get close and close the distance between him and Mikey Garcia is going to have a hell of a time dealing with it. I feel that. So I'm going to go with Dejan Zlaticanin by this one. I'm not sure whether it's going to be by KO or whether it's going to be by stop or by a decision. I'm just picking Dejan Zlaticanin to win this fight. But if Mikey Garcia, and I'll know by the first or second round, you know what I'm saying? Maybe by the first 3 rounds, within the first 3 rounds, the winner of the fight should become apparent. But also things change. But for the time being, the fight will, be more apparent during those first 3 rounds. We'll see if Zlaticanin can close that gap. We'll see if Mikey Garcia can maintain that gap and fight at his comfort, and fight at his comfortable range. So, like I said, it's really difficult to pick, but I will be picking Dejan Zlaticanin. But if Mikey Garcia, is able to use what makes him such a good boxer, then it really wouldn't surprise me if Mikey Garcia pulls out the victory as well. So, as you can tell, I'm really divided by this, but my gut, I'm going with my gut, and my gut's telling me Zlaticanin. But that's all I got for this one, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop it in the comment section. Who do you think is going to win this fight? Also, give me a few reasons as to why you think the particular fighter you're picking is going to win. You know, I really do like to hear the more, you know, the details, the specifics as to why people pick fighters. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry that I couldn't give you more specific reason why I'm picking Dejan Zlaticanin. I told you I'm going with my gut feeling here. I just don't see Mikey Garcia being able to keep that gap, you know what I'm saying, established and being able to fight at his comfort zone. I think Dejan Zlaticanin has everything it takes to make this a very uncomfortable fight for Mikey Garcia. So I guess that would be your more specific reason. But you know, I want to know what you guys think. Also, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your boxing homies. Tune in to next Saturday. Make sure you guys catch this fight on the undercard of Frampton Santa Cruz 2. Also introduce somebody to boxing. Make sure they don't miss next weekend's action. We got a lot of great fights lined up for next Saturday on HBO and Showtime. So, you know, whatever one you guys decide to watch, I'm sure there's going to be fireworks on both networks. So, you know, just make sure you record the other one. If you're going to, you know, choose one, make sure you record the other one. But that's all I got for you guys on this one. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Peace.